The objective of this chapter is that you will be able to identify what to consider when risk of collision is being assessed, and the need to maintain a proper lookout in all conditions of visibility. Every ship must keep a good lookout, day and night, by sight and hearing, and any other means available as appropriate to the weather conditions and circumstances. Every vessel shall at all times proceed at a safe speed. When considering what is a safe speed, all vessels should consider the following aspects: state of visibility, the wind, sea and current, traffic density, the draft of the vessel with relationship to available water, the maneuverability of the vessel, the presence of shore lights and effects on vision of other lights. A vessel with operational radar must also consider the following: characteristics of the radar, any limitation due to present radar range, radar interference caused by the weather and sea clutter, the possibility that small targets may not be detected by the radar, the density of vessels and their movements. A more exact estimate of the actual visibility by the use of the radar. Every vessel must use all available means, including radar, AIS, etc., to determine if there is any risk of collision with other vessels. If any doubt, then use common sense and assume the risk does exist and take appropriate action. This must be done as early as possible, but the actions taken should not be made on insufficient or scanty information. A risk of collision should be considered if the compass bearing of another vessel is constant, or only changing very slowly. If the other vessel is close, or of a large size, the risk of collision may still be present, even though the bearing may be slowly changing. All actions for avoiding a collision, such as alteration of course, speed, or a combination of both, shall, if possible, be sufficiently large to be readily apparent to other vessels, and performed in good time with due regard to the practice of good seamanship. If there is sufficient sea room, an alteration of course may be the most effective action. The result of the action shall be monitored until the other vessel is finally clear. If more time is needed to assess the situation, reduce speed or stop. A vessel which is to keep out of the way of another should take early action and provide sufficient sea room for the other vessel. A vessel proceeding along a narrow channel should keep as close as possible to the starboard side of the channel. Vessels engaged in fishing, vessels of less than 20 meters and sailing vessels shall not impede the passage of vessels which are restricted to staying in the channel. A vessel crossing a narrow channel shall not impede another vessel which can only navigate within that channel. Follow its direction and, if practicable, keep clear from the central separation zone or line. Vessels that are not using the scheme shall avoid it by as wide a margin as practicable. Normally, join or leave at the entrances, but when doing it from the sides, the approach angle should be as close to the direction of the lane as possible. If crossing a traffic lane is unavoidable, the crossing shall be done where the ship's heading, not the course made good, is at an angle as close as possible to 90 degrees to the lane. Vessels with a length over 20 meters are recommended to use available traffic lanes instead of inshore traffic zones. But vessels bound for a port or location within the inshore traffic zone. Vessels under 20 meters in length and sailing vessels may in all circumstances use the inshore traffic zones. Entering the separation zone is only allowed when crossing, joining or leaving the lane, in case of emergency or when fishing inside the zone as intended. Anchoring in a traffic separation scheme or near its termination should be avoided. Navigation at the ends of the separation lanes should be performed with caution. Vessels engaged in fishing, vessels with a length of less than 20 meters and sailing vessels shall not get in the way of other traffic using the scheme. Vessels that are engaged in maintenance or in underwater work with restricted maneuverability may carry out the operation and are exempt from the regulations within this rule. The learning objectives of this chapter are that you will be able to identify the actions to be taken when meeting other vessels and to avoid the risk of collision. The signals used in distress are also included in this section. If a vessel is approaching another vessel from behind in clear visibility, so the stern light of the forward vessel should be visible at night. In other words, within the theoretical sector of the stern light of the forward vessel, then it is considered as an overtaking vessel, and it must give way in all circumstances until the overtaking vessel is finally passed and clear. Subsequent alterations of course will not alter the category of the overtaking vessel, or the obligations of keeping clear. If in any doubt whether you are an overtaking vessel, always assume you are overtaking and keep clear of the other vessel. When two power-driven ships are approaching each other in clear visibility, where each sees the other dead ahead, or nearly dead ahead and on opposite courses, a head-on situation, both shall alter course to starboard. If there is doubt about the situation, it shall be assumed that it is a head-on situation, and act accordingly. In case of a crossing situation between two power-driven vessels, in clear visibility and when there is a risk of collision, the one that has the other on its starboard side shall keep clear of the other vessel and avoid crossing ahead of her. Give way vessel. When a vessel has to keep clear of another, it must take action in good time and make the action a large one, so it is obvious to the other vessel. Stand-on vessel. Where two vessels are meeting and one has to keep clear, the other will be the stand-on vessel and should maintain its course and speed. However, when it is clear that the give-way vessel is either not taking appropriate action or not doing enough to prevent a collision, then the stand-on vessel may take some action to keep out of the way of the other. However, in this situation, the stand-on vessel should avoid an alteration of course to port. Later, when the two vessels are very close and any action by the give-way vessel won't be sufficient on its own, then the stand-on vessel must take suitable action to avoid a collision. In clear visibility, a power-driven vessel underway shall keep out of the way of a vessel not under command, a vessel restricted in her ability to maneuver, a vessel engaged in fishing, a sailing vessel, in clear visibility, a vessel engaged in fishing when underway shall, so far as possible, keep out of the way of a vessel not under command, a vessel restricted in her ability to maneuver, in clear visibility, any vessel other than a vessel not under command or a vessel restricted in her ability to maneuver shall normally avoid impeding the safe passage of a vessel constrained by her draft. In clear visibility, a seaplane on the water shall, in general, keep well clear of all vessels. However, where risk of collision does develop, vessels are also obliged to take suitable action. A wing-in-ground craft would behave as any other power-driven vessel when operating on the surface. But keep clear of other vessels when in flight, taking off and landing. When a ship is navigating in or near an area of restricted visibility, the speed should be adjusted to a safe speed to suit the prevailing visibility, and the engines should be ready to maneuver. When detecting another vessel by radar and a close quarter situation, or a risk of collision is developing, the vessel should take early and substantial action, but avoid taking the following actions. Turning to port for a vessel forward of the beam, except when overtaking. Turning towards a vessel abeam, or abaft the beam. In case of any uncertainty of another vessel's movement, and if a fog signal is heard ahead, then a vessel should reduce its speed to a minimum to keep steerage, or even stop and take all way off the vessel, and afterwards proceed with great caution. The rule is very easy to understand and needs no explanation. This is therefore a direct quote from the rules. 1. The following signals, used or exhibited either together or separately, indicate distress and need of assistance. A. A gun or other explosive signal fired at intervals of about a minute. B. A continuous sounding with any fog signalling apparatus. C. Rockets or shells, throwing red stars fired one at a time at short intervals. D. A signal made by radiotelegraphy or by any other signalling method consisting of the group ... SOS in the Morse code. E. A signal sent by radiotelephony consisting of the spoken word Mayday. F. The international code signal of distress indicated by NC. G. A signal consisting of a square flag, having above or below it a ball, or anything resembling a ball. H. Flames on the vessel, as from a burning tar barrel, oil barrel, etc. I. A rocket parachute flare, or a hand flare showing a red light. J. A smoke signal giving off orange-coloured smoke. K. Slowly and repeatedly raising and lowering arms outstretched to each side. L. A distress alert by means of digital selective calling, DSC, transmitted on 1. VHF, channel 70, or 2. MF or HF on the frequencies 2187.5 kHz, 8414.5 kHz, 4207.5 kHz, 6312 kHz, 12577 kHz, or 16804.5 kHz. M. A ship-to-shore distress alert transmitted by the ship's Inmarsat or other mobile satellite service provider, ship earth station. N. Signals transmitted by emergency position indicating radio beacons. O. Approved signals transmitted by radio communication systems, including survival craft radar transponders. 2. The use or exhibition of any of the foregoing signals except for the purpose of indicating distress and need of assistance, and the use of other signals that may be confused with any of the above signals is prohibited. 3. Attention is drawn to the relevant sections of the International Code of Signals, the Merchant Ship Search and Rescue Manual, and the following signals. A. A piece of orange-coloured canvas with either a black square and circle or other appropriate symbol for identification from the air. B. A dye marker.